Okay, today we are going to be working on adding text in Photoshop, and you might think, oh, that sounds super easy. But really, it's not as easy as you might think, especially since we've been working in Illustrator. In Illustrator, you just click the text tool and click on your artboard somewhere, and it just adds text. Well, with Photoshop, you have to actually create a text box. If you just click on the canvas, you're going to find that you'll be a little bit frustrated because your words won't show up because the text box is so tiny. So that might be a problem if you are having trouble. So over on your tools menu, click on the type tool, but first I want you to click the drop down box and look at all at everything behind the type tool. You've got a horizontal type tool, vertical type tool. Notice the horizontal type mask tool. That is super awesome. And the vertical type mask tool. I mean, that's like, it's like almost Christmas right there, knowing that those are there. Yeah, that's very powerful tools. So anyway, adding text and image. You're going to select the type tool. And in the text options bar, you're going to set the font family, font style, size, alignment, and color for the text. Here are your text options up here in your control panel. Okay. When you're working with a font on screen, you may observe that it seems a little smaller or larger than its point size. It's because the on-screen appearance of fonts depends on the document size and magnification. To see the font size as it will appear when printed, choose View and then Print Size. Right there. And this is a very small picture. I'm going to press Control-0 to get it back. So since it's such a small picture, when it's printed, you need to take that into account when you decide what you're going to put on this picture. So I'm going to go ahead and create a text box. And if you'll notice over here, your foreground is this light blue color and your background is white. I want to walk you through some of the things up at the top. So one of my favorite fonts is going to be Myriad Pro. So I'm going to change to Myriad Pro. And then you can see for really nice fonts, you're going to have lots of like bold, regular, italics, semi-bold. They're very well developed. And then I'm going to change the font size to maybe, I don't know, I'll just have to kind of see it once I get it up there, but I'm changing to 36. And this is the anti-aliasing pop-up menu. It allows your font to be sharp, crisp, and I'll show you that once we get our fonts done. Of course, left, center, and right align. And this changes the font color. Okay, if I want to change the font color, I think a pretty color would be to eyedropper tool somewhere in here. I've already done that. You can do that. So I'm going to change my font color. I've already eyedropper tooled that and created a yellow so that my font can be yellow. And I'm going to go ahead and start typing somewhere out there. And I know you want to start singing. All right. All right, I pushed the wrong button. Somewhere out there. All right, now to get out of your text box, you have to go up to the Move tool and click on your Move tool. And this, if you'll go to Window and then open your character panel, this is going to be what we're going to be going through some of these different things that you can do. Right now, currently, I have my small caps button on, and you can change it to all caps or faux italics, or I think it's bold. But I'm going to take those off. And you see that now it is just your plain text. I'm going to click on my type tool because I want to manipulate this. I forgot to put dots. And I want you to also know that you can manipulate the size of your text box by just clicking your sizing handles. So to get out of this, you go up to the Move tool and click on the Move tool, and then you can center it. All right. So up here, let's talk about what all this is. On the character panel, you can change the font size here. You can change the leading, and what leading is it is the space between lines. It is different than a baseline shift. It is kind of like single space, double space. This box right here is the, I think this one's kerning. Let's see if it'll pop up. Yeah, this one's kerning, and this one is tracking. Now, the difference between kerning and tracking is kerning is changing. So you have to get your text tool, go in between two letters, and let's increase the kerning just so that you can see it by 100. It is, kerning changes the space between just two characters. So if you have like a huge billboard and you're, say you have T and I, and for instance they just look too far apart from each other from the rest of the text, and you want to move them closer to one another, you can go to your kerning, and it allows you to have some real serious control between your fonts. Now if you want to highlight all of it and increase your tracking, you can increase it to 100, and let me show you what it does. It puts space between each character. Okay, if you don't want to do that, you can come to your history panel and delete the last thing that you did. Okay. The next thing is vertical scale, and that keeps your what that does is that allows you to increase or decrease how tall these letters are without affecting it this way, horizontally. So if you like the font, but you need it kind of a little different in height or width to fit somewhere, you can change the vertical and horizontal scale of it. All right, so let's go click on and zoom in to our text. Okay, so anti-aliasing, let's get our text tool so that you can see. This is anti-aliasing. So sharp, crisp, strong, and smooth. So basically, and without any, it looks rough. But basically, if you'll notice, it kind of fills in these gaps where these pixels are just so harsh, and you'll see that it kind of makes it much less harsh. It just fills in the gap. So it fills them in different ways with each tool. The next thing that I want you to do is go to Window. No, I'm sorry. Modifying text by using the paragraph panel. You will go over to the paragraph panel. Oh, by the way, you can also change the color and such over here of your text. And the baseline shift, which brings it, like if you imagine an imaginary line right here, it will pull your letters from there as high as you want them to go. It is different than tracking. I mean, it is much different than leading. Leading adjusts the space between lines, whereas a baseline shift pulls all of your lines off of the baseline. So let's move on down to modifying text using the paragraph panel. Click on the paragraph panel, and you can see that there you've got a bunch of different little options. All I really want to point out is you've got left, center, and right align, and then you have justify, which is making on the left and the right side flat, kind of like a newspaper does, or magazine. And you have justify with your last line indented to the left, centered, justify with last line centered, justify with last line right aligned, and justified completely. Okay. And down here, you have all of your indentations for your first line, your indent from the left margin, add space before, after paragraphs. And this is very, very useful when you're laying out documents. And then right margin indent and add space after paragraph. You also have some paragraph Roman hanging punctuation and a bunch of different other options that you might choose to have. Okay. Okay, another thing that you can do is you can transform a text box. You go to Windows, and then you open your layers panel, and you make sure in your layers panel, you should always have your layer open. You make sure that you have your text layer selected. Now, when you create layers, you're going to, the first time you press text, you're going to create a text layer. Whereas this clouds layer, I didn't name it good, but this clouds layer is just a picture layer. So select your text layer by highlighting it. And then you're going to either go to Edit, Transform, or you're going to press Control-T. And I'm not seeing it right off. Free transform and transform. Okay, so you can transform by scaling it, rotating it, skewing it, all those things. But for right now, I'm just going to free transform, and that's Control-T. Got to zoom out so that I can see it. And so, for instance, you can take your text and you can make it cattywampus. Okay, the next thing is warping text, which is pretty fun. It can make a lot of very good visual effects. What I want you to do is click on your type tool, click in your text. Okay, and then go up here to the, I want you to highlight your text, go up here to the control panel, and there's a T that has like a little path underneath it. It's create warp text, and you can scroll down through like the arc and the arc lower. The problem with this that I have currently is that I didn't fit my text box to my text. So you might want to do that first and it'll warp better. So, and then I have arch, bulge, shell lower, shell upper, flag. That one's super fun for this one. Wave, fish, rise, fish eye. That one's fun. And inflate like it's a balloon. So if you're typing on a balloon, you could do that. Or squeeze. You're selling diet pills. Twist. I personally, for this one, like flag. And you can change the bend to increase the bend or decrease it. And so there you go. You can do it horizontally or vertically. You have lots of options there when it comes to text. All right, so the last thing that I want to do is I want to modify our text using layer styles. And you are going to go up to your layers panel, and you're going to double click the text layer over on the very far right side. So go to your text layer in your layers panel, double click your text layer to the very far right side, and it is going to open your layer styles. Okay, you can click through some of these. If you know exactly what you want to do, you can just click them and it will apply whatever it is that you did. Okay, but what I want you to do, and it doesn't open any options, but what I want you to do is kind of click through and look at the things that can be done. Click on, click off of your inner shadows and inner glow. Making it look like satin, color overlays, gradient overlays. Take some of these things off. Pattern overlay, and you can choose your pattern. You can have an outer glow and a drop shadow. You'll use drop shadow a good bit. So I'm going to take all those off except for outer glow because I want it to look like it's got it's glowing because it's got clouds coming out from it. All right, so I'm going to change the size of my glow so that you can see it a little bit better, and I'm going to increase the spread as well, just by a little bit, so that it looks more like it's glowing. Almost looks hazy. And you can change a whole bunch of stuff. You can add noise, which looks like junk, but for this purpose. But you can get a bunch. It looks almost like it's spray painted there. So just remember, adding noise can make it look spray painted a little bit. If you are needing to do that, you can change the opacity of it so that you can see it more or less. And you can change all sort of stuff on the blend mode. Okay, I'm going to click OK, and we are done with this lesson. So let's go back through the things that we changed, just as a little tiny reminder. First, we learned how to add text to images. You have to make sure you click and drag your text box. And then you modify it up here on the control panel. You go to Window, Character to open up your character panel, and you can change things such as font size, leading, kerning, tracking, vertical scale, horizontal scale, your all caps. All of that is right in here. Okay. You can also change anti-aliasing right here, or you can do it up on your control panel. Okay. You can change baseline shift here also. And the next thing we did was we modified text using our paragraph panel. You can left and right align, center. You can justify it with your last line either being left, center, or right aligned, or justify it completely. Then we transformed by pressing Control T, or going to Edit Transform to edit our text layer. Edit, Transform, or Free Transform. And then we warped. The way that we got to warp is we clicked on our text, and then we have to be in text, and then you go to this little T that looks like it's sitting on a mountain, and that is the warp text icon. Okay, So that's it for today.